United Nations Special Envoy says Houthi offensive on Maghreb confines peace efforts. A recent United Nations report confirms that war has devastating consequences on Yemenis. Joint forces clash with Houthi rebels on different fronts in Hodeidah. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. This is the English news with me, Rushain Fouad. UN Special Envoy for Yemen Hans Grunberg concluded a visit to Cairo, where he met Arab and Egyptian officials. Grunberg also met with a diverse group of Yemeni women and men, including parliamentarians and representatives of political parties, civil society organizations, and media professionals. More in the following report.
Continuing his diplomatic shuttle visit in the region, United Nations Special Envoy for Yemen Hans Grunberg concluded a visit to Cairo, where he met different parties in order to draw a way for peace in Yemen. Grunberg met Arab League Secretary General Ahmed Abul Ghait. The meeting discussed the importance of restoring stability in Yemen and the whole region. They highlighted the need for a regional participation in sharing the responsibility as to the Yemeni crisis, in order to prevent further escalation and to help Yemenis in reaching a negotiated political solution. In his meeting with the Egyptian Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry, the latter affirmed Egypt's stance as to Yemen. Shoukry said his country is committed to supporting the unity, sovereignty, and independence of Yemen. The Egyptian Foreign Minister renewed Cairo's refusal to use Yemen as a platform to threaten regional security and navigation in the Red Sea. He added that the political solution is the best way to reach a comprehensive and sustainable settlement for the crisis in Yemen. Grunberg's meeting with Yemeni diverse groups in Cairo called into attention the need to de-escalate violence and highlighted the impact of the deteriorating economy on the lives of civilians. The United Nations envoy consulted Yemeni parties in Cairo on ways to start an inclusive political dialogue that will include their demands and a broader Yemeni agenda for political, economic, and security priorities. Cairo visit's outcome affirmed Grunberg's confirmation that there is no sustainable military solution to the conflict in Yemen, and that warring parties need to de-escalate violence and prioritize the interests of civilians over scoring military wins.
In a recent report for the UN, the death toll due to the conflict in Yemen has grown 60% since 2019. The report issued by the United Nations Development Programme expected that Yemen will have successfully recovered from this current crisis through empowering women, investing in agriculture, and encouraging the private sector. More in the following report.
The cost of this war is simply in such a set of dimensions and implications that it really should not be allowed to simply continue. Now, how often have we said that in history? Well, more often than we would wish to admit.
War-torn Yemen is among the poorest countries in the world, but recovery is possible if the conflict ends now. The UN Development Programme said in a report entitled By Impact of War on Yemen Part 3. The report was carried out by the Frederick S. Pardee Center for International Futures at the University of Denver, located in the United States, and is the third in a series launched in 2019. The report sheds light on widespread impacts that crisis in Yemen will continue to have across key dimensions of development and well-being. The UN report says that all is not lost and extreme poverty could be eliminated within a generation or by 2047 if the fighting ceases. According to the report, Yemen has missed out on $126 billion of potential economic growth due to war. Achim Steiner, UNDP administrator, said that development in Yemen can be reality, despite situation on the ground, stressing that the organization is committed to Yemen and the Yemeni people.
Can be in such a situation to not lose sight of the fact that one day the idea of development will become a real possibility again.
Khalid Abouzar, director of UNDP Regional Bureau for Arab States, noted that Yemenis are eager to move forward into sustainable and inclusive development.
Humanitarian needs are not decreasing. So, is the solution humanitarian aid alone? The answer is no. We think we need to have development and to think on the long term where we try to patch the urgency and the emergency needs. We are here, we support Yemen, but time has come to more action on the ground, and I think we owe that to the beautiful people of Yemen.
Through statistical modeling analyzing future scenarios, the report shows that securing of peace by January 2020 can enable Yemenis to reverse deep trends of impoverishment facing the country and see Yemen leap to middle-income status by 2050, while eradicating extreme poverty which now affects 15.6 million people. The report also projects that malnutrition can be halved by 2025 and that the country can achieve $450 billion of economic growth by 2050 in an integrated peace and recovery scenario. The report comes as Yemen continues to be caught up in a conflict since 2015, which in addition to loss of life is tearing apart livelihoods, social fabric, causing Yemen to teeter on the brink of famine and resulting in widespread reversals of development progress. Yemeni crisis has already pushed an additional 4.9 million people into malnutrition. This toll will grow to 9.2 million by 2030 should war persist. By the same year, the number of people living in an extreme poverty would surge to 22 million, about 65% of the population. UN Development Program works across Yemen to help people meet their basic needs, restore livelihoods and support communities and promote peace building. Fighting between government and Iran proxies, Houthi rebels, generated the world's humanitarian crisis and leaving the country teetering on the brink of famine.
Turning to the west coast, violent battles continue between the joint forces and the Houthi militia in separate areas of the governorates of Taiz and Hodeidah. According to military sources, the battles are taking place in the district of Maghbana in Taiz and the districts of Jabal Ras and El Jarrahi in Hodeidah, while the militia is still incurring losses in terms of lives and equipment. In its latest report, the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs said recent developments in Hodeidah have displaced 2,000 families. According to officials, more than 1,000 families were displaced from Hodeidah to El Khoucha, while 341 other families were displaced to Taiz. A recent human rights report revealed that the Houthi rebels committed dozens of crimes and violations against civilians in 3 districts south of Hodeidah. To that, the government forces uncovered a network of landmines that was planted within people's houses and حيث.
أحد حلول التفجير التي تم إخراجها من أحد القرى بعد الهجوم عليها والسيطرة. هذا أحد حلول التفجير. عبوات التي زرعت في إحدى مساكن المواطنين تعمل على حبال التفجير. وهذا أحد العبوات التي زرعت بداخلها ما هيش كلمة. إحدى العبوات اللي تم زرعها في بيوت المواطنين وتهجيرهم من مساكنهم، وهذه إحدى المساكن التي تم إخراج العبوات.
Turning to Ma'rib, the International Organization for Migration warned against the worsening humanitarian situation in the city. IOM urgently called on all parties to end the ongoing hostilities and appealed for urgent funds to support those affected. According to IOM, the number of displaced people in Ma'rib increased to more than 45,000 people since September. Still in Ma'rib, government forces and tribes targeted Houthi militia gatherings in the west of the governorate. Field military sources stated that government forces targeted Houthi positions with artillery on various fronts west of Ma'rib. According to the sources, the shelling caused the Houthi militia losses in equipment and lives. In Sana'a, coalition said it launched airstrikes on Houthi drone sites. The strike is the second in 2 days in the capital Sana'a. The coalition bombed the building that was reportedly used as a secret factory for drones. The coalition warned civilians to stay away from areas that will be legitimate military targets. The coalition announced that it inflicted the Iranian-backed Houthi militia with heavy losses during the past 24 hours. It said 15 Houthi targets were raided in Ma'rib, causing the killing of 95 Houthi militants and the destruction of 11 military equipment. Coming next. For a Better Future, Union for Women provides training to improve lives of women and girls.
اضطرينا نحن نغادر من ذي وزحنا.
الله يستبدلكم يا محولتني، الله يستبدل.
Welcome back. Governor of Taiz Nabil Shamsen discussed with the team of Halu Trust International emergency interventions to remove mines in Taiz. The intervention includes surveying areas, removing mines, and clearing lands and farms. The intervention also includes the rehabilitation of these areas for reuse. Taiz Governorate hosts thousands of mines, causing civilian casualties, especially among children and women. Mines planted by the Houthi rebels in different parts in Yemen still and will pose a standing nightmare for Yemenis. The threat increases with no charted maps to discover their places. More in the following report.
Landmines laid in farmlands, villages, wells, and roads have killed many civilians, including children, in Hodeidah and Taiz Governorate since 2018. Landmines and improvised explosive devices have prevented humanitarian organizations from reaching populations in need, left farms and wells inaccessible, and harmed civilians trying to return home. Houthi-laid landmines have not only killed and harmed numerous civilians, but they have prevented vulnerable Yemenis from harvesting crops and drawing clean water desperately needed for survival. Masan project for demining managed to extract mines planted by the Houthi group in various regions of Yemen, including 7 anti-personnel mines, 641 anti-tank mines, and 527 unexploded ordnances. The Yemeni Coalition to Monitor Human Rights Violations documented the deaths of more than 1,929 civilians during the past 6 years, It also spoke about the disability and maiming of more than 2,242 civilians, including 519 children and 167 women in the same period due to mines. Mine removal is extremely complicated. Houthis plant them everywhere, which makes it hard for the Yemeni citizens to live their lives normally.
Yemeni Union for Women in Lahj represents an important aspect in providing training courses for women and girls. The union provides professional skills to improve women's living conditions. More in the following report.
When the war conditions forced her to move with her family to Lahj Governorate, she kept searching for a safe place that would enable her to find ways of safe living. And here, in these areas in Lahj Governorate, Rina found what she aspired to.
I have joined the Women's Union course for mobile maintenance. I love this field and I have joined it to benefit myself and all others around me and to improve the living condition of my family.
Rina is not the only one who was pushed by the circumstances of war here, but dozens of women from the resident and the displaced community. These areas were their last destination to alleviate life's suffering and psychological pressures resulting from displacement, and to provide them with different skills and professions that provide them with a decent life.
I have joined this course through promoted ads. I have come to register and was chosen in the field of sewing, and thank God I have been accepted to be trained for 2 months and started my sewing project and marketing for some products I have made.
Overcoming the conditions of war, harsh life, and the scourge of displacement. This is what the training and economic empowerment programs, internationally funded by the United Nations Population Fund within the Livelihood and Economic Empowerment Projects aim.
This course is affiliated to Yemeni Women's Unity in Lahj. It has been launched in 2019. This course is considered to be part of the Livelihood and Economic Empowerment Project activity. It is funded by UN Population Fund organization. This project is implemented in 4 governorates. There are many services provided by this project, which are related to consultancy, legal support, also psychological support, and emergency cash transfers, in addition to referring cases and awareness raising. One of the most important things about this project is the training and implementation of small projects for women and girls, either from the resident or displaced community. They are subjected to training courses to improve their skills, and then they are trained in life skills in how to manage their own private projects. Since the start of the project till this day, more than 600 beneficiaries have been trained in several fields, in addition to assisting 300 beneficiaries to open their own private projects, either from the resident or displaced community.
Empowering displaced or resident women, training and rehabilitating them psychologically and professionally is an important step. The female arrivals here find space for life and are provided with skills that will help them to resist the difficult living conditions created by the war.
Ministry of Telecommunication refused a decision by MTN Telecom Company to end its service in Yemen. The ministry confirmed that it will not recognize any other party that the company has been contracted with and described the step taken by the company as an invasion from paying taxes. In Aden, resistance complain about deterioration of the living and economic situation amid government interference. Local sources said food traders manipulate prices of food supplies and basic needs on a daily basis. According to them, traders are taking advantage of the absence of the role of authorities and the collapse of the national currency. Still in Aden, the central bank announced results of the 3rd auction of foreign currencies for Yemen, with a total of more than $13 million. The bank indicated that the foreign currency auction will continue on a weekly basis. The auction's high bid price was traded at 1,490 riyals, while the lowest bid price was 1,461 riyals. The National Committee Against Coronavirus announced 5 new cases of COVID-19 in 4 governorates. Committee officials said on Twitter that 2 cases were recorded in Al Bayda, 1 in Aden, 1 in Lahj, and 1 in Hadramaut. Also, no deaths were recorded, plus 4 recovered cases. With the current updates, the total confirmed cases are 9,972, including 1,942 deaths and 6,785 cases of recovery. Here's a reminder of the main headlines. United Nations Special Envoy says Houthi offensive in Maghreb confines peace efforts. A recent United Nations report confirmed that war has devastating consequences on Yemenis. Joint forces clash with Houthi rebels on different fronts in Hodeidah. This brings us to the end of the news. It was Rushain Fouad. Thank you for watching.